Hi everybody! In this combo of 3 videos, we are going to focus on how to adapt input materials using modern technology. To be more specific, by the end of this module, you are expected to identify the strengths and weaknesses of an English text and explain why they need to adapt the textbook materials, weigh the advantages and disadvantages of using linguistic corpora in language classroom, using programs in the website lextutor.ca to modify reading and listening materials in textbooks. In the present video, we shall discuss the pros and cons of English textbook and why they need some adaptation. Textbooks are key component in most language programs. In some situations, they serve as the basis for much of the language input that learners receive and the language practice that occurs in the classroom. They may provide the basis for the content of the lessons, the balance of skills taught, and the kinds of language practice that the student take part in. In the other situations, the textbook may serve to supplement the teacher instruction. For learners, the textbook may provide the major source of contact that they have with the target language, apart from input provided by the teacher. In case of inexperienced teachers, textbooks may also serve as a form of teacher training. They provide ideas on how to plan and teach lessons, as well as the formats that the teachers can use. Much of the language teaching that occurs throughout the world today could not take place without the intensive use of commercial textbooks. Learning how to use and adapt textbooks is hence an important part of a teacher's professional knowledge. The use of commercial textbooks in teaching has both advantages and disadvantages, depending on how they are used and the context for which they are used. Among the principal advantages are: first, they provide the structure and syllabus for a program. Without textbook, a program may have no central core, and learners may not receive a syllabus that has been systematically planned and developed. Second, they have standardized instruction. The use of a textbook in a program can ensure that the students in different classes in different regions receive similar content and therefore can be tested in the same way. Third, they maintain quality. If a well-developed textbook is used, students are exposed to materials that has been tried and tested, that are based on the sound learning principles and that are paced appropriately. Fourth, they provide a variety of learning resources. Textbooks are often accompanied by workbooks, CDs, cassettes, video, CD-ROMs, and comprehensive teaching guides, providing rich and varied resources for teachers and learners. Fifth, they are efficient. They save teachers time, enabling teachers to devote the time to teaching rather than materials production. Sixth, they can provide effective language models and input. Textbook can provide support for teachers whose first language is not English and who may be unable to generate accurate language input on their own. The seventh, they can train teachers. If teachers have limited teaching experience, a textbook together with a teacher's manual can serve as a medium of initial teacher training. Next, they are visually appealing. Commercial textbooks usually have high standards of design and production and hence are appealing to teachers and learners. However, there are also potential negative effects. For example, first, they may contain inauthentic language. Textbooks sometimes present inauthentic language. Syntax, dialogues, and other aspects of content tend to be specially written to incorporate teaching points and are not often representative of real language use. Second, they may distort the content. Textbooks often present an idealized view of the world or fail to represent real issues. In order to make textbooks acceptable in many different contexts, controversial topics are avoided. and instead, an idealized white middle-class view of the world is portrayed as the norm. Next, they may not reflect the student needs. Since textbooks are often written for global markets, they often do not reflect the interests and needs of the students, and hence may require adaptation. Fourth, they can de-skill teachers. If teachers use the textbooks as a primary source of their teaching, leaving the textbook and the teacher's manual to make the major instruction decisions for them, the teacher roles can be reduced to that of a technician whose primary function is to present materials prepared by others. Next, they are expensive. Commercial textbooks may present a financial burden for students in many parts of the world. In sum, both the benefits and limitations of the use of the textbook need to be considered. And if the textbooks that are being used in the program are judged to have some negative consequences, remedial action should be taken, for example, by adapting, supplementing books, or by providing appropriate guidance and support for teachers in how to use them appropriately. Effective instructional materials in language teaching are shaped by consideration of a number of factors, including teachers, learners, contextual factors. Teacher factors include the teacher language proficiency, training and experience, cultural background, and preferred teaching styles. Learner factors include learner learning style preferences, their language learning needs, interests, and motivation. Contextual factors include the school culture, classroom conditions, class size, and availability of teaching resources in the situations where the material will be used. Two other factors play a crucial role in determining what the material look like and how they work. One is the theories of language and language use reflected in the materials, and the other is the theories of language learning on which the materials are based. In developing materials for aspects of language learning, whether it be a skill-based course in listening, reading, speaking, or writing, or an integrated skill basic series, the writer's understanding of language and language use will have a major impact on the material's design. Since it will determine the goals of the writer set for the materials, the focus of the materials themselves, and the activity within them. In planning materials for the teaching of writing, for example, the material developer could start from a view that focuses on the writing mode. For example, the organizational mode underlining paragraphs and essays, such as compare and contrast, cause and effect, and so on. Alternatively, the writer might start from a genre or text-based view, in which texts are categorized as news reports, business letters, or academic essay, and so on. Or the writer could begin from a process perspective, with views writing as a cognitive and composing processes, including pre-writing, planning, drafting, composing, reviewing, revising, and editing. An application of the theories of language the instructional material designer has selected in deciding on types of the syllabus that the material will be based on. Thus, to continue with the sum of examples already cited, a writing course might be built around a functional syllabus, a text-based syllabus, or process syllabus. In addition to selecting the theories of language and language use to support the approach the writer will take to his or her task, the writer will also need to consider the complementary question of theories of language learning underlining the materials, since this will determine how the syllabus is implemented in the form of exercises, tasks, activities, and learning experiences. Particular language models are often linked to a particular views of learning. For example, a text-based approach to the teaching of writing is often linked to the Vygotskian view of learning based on the notion of scaffolding. The teacher and the learners are viewed as engaged in collaborative problem solving, with a teacher providing demonstrations, support, guidance, and input, and gradually withdrawing these as the learner becomes increasingly independent. Models of good writing are employed, and writing is taught through a process of deconstruction, modeling, and joint elaboration, and reconstruction as the student creates their own text. Before the writer can make decisions on the kind of exercises, tasks, and activities to be employed in the materials, an overall instructional framework has to be agreed on. What is the rationale for the kinds of activities employed and the sequencing within the materials? Current interpretations of the underlying principles of contemporary versions of communicative language teaching might lead to the following specifications of underlying instructional principles. First, second language learning is facilitated when learners are engaged in interaction and meaningful interaction. Second, effective classroom learning tasks and exercises provide opportunities for the students to negotiate the meaning, expand the language resources, notice how language is used, and take part in meaningful intrapersonal exchange. Next, meaningful communication results from the student processing content that is relevant, purposeful, interesting, and engaging. Fourth, communication is a holistic approach that often calls upon the use of several language skills and modalities. Next, language learning is facilitated both by activities that involve inductive or discovery learning of underlying rules of language use and organization, as well as by those involving language analysis and reflection. Sixth, language learning is a gradual process that involves creative use of language, trial, and error. Although errors are normal products of learning, the ultimate goal of learning is to be able to use a new language both accurately and fluently. Seventh, learners develop their own routes of learning, progressing at different rates, and have different needs and motivation for language learning. Followed by is a successful language learning involves the use of effective learning and communication strategies. Next, the role of the teachers in the language classroom is that of a facilitator who creates a classroom climate conducive to language learning and provides opportunity for the student to use and practice the language and to reflect on language use and language learning. 10th, the classroom is a community where learners learn through collaboration and sharing. The challenge for material writer is to turn this principle into teaching materials.